Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of 20s Unlocked. I'm your host, Ben, and today this is kind of a special episode because it's my first time doing an in-person episode, as you can see, and I'm very excited about today's conversation. I'm very excited about my guest today, Matt Bowman. How you doing, brother?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, man. I'm pretty excited.
Super excited.
See you. If you don't mind, just briefly introduce yourself and kind of what you do and who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm Matt Bowman. I'm a lifelong St. Louis resident. I work in real estate. I work with Janet McAfee luxury firm from Ladue. Ben and I know each other from our other day jobs, the grind of the realtor. We're people of many talents. But yeah, so like I said, I'm lifelong from St. Louis, love St. Louis. Love getting involved in the community and love seeing things like this happen, man. You're making cool things happen.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. I mean, we're just trying,
Absolutely.
It's all about trying new things. But yeah, and but today we will be talking about luxury real estate because this is something that I know you're a realtor, but you specialize mostly in luxury real estate.
Yeah.
Land investments. An area of real estate that not many people know about. Even I don't really know.
Sure.
So I'm very excited to kind of get this going. So my first question is like, what is it that inspired you to pursue a career in real estate, specifically in the luxury market?
Well, I mean, I've always kind of been around real estate. And I think more people are than they realize. I mean, my family has owned pieces of real estate, growing up, so very fortunate to do that. But like I said, I think more people are involved in real estate than they realize. I mean, even on the surface level, I mean, when you're renting or buying, you live in a place, that's being involved in real estate. And I think you can get more involved than people are aware, and by that, you work with a lot of first-time home buyers. And so I'm sure you kind of spin, hey, you're paying rent. It might be a lot easier to start paying a mortgage, and so a lot of people are right on that cusp of real estate. It's in your everyday life. Every time you walk through a door, that's real estate.
That's real estate,
right?
Yeah.
It sounds so cliche, but I mean, if you're in a building, if you're on land, you're in real estate, right? And so I think the understanding that was really crucial for me, just because I mean, it's everywhere in my life. And then, like I said, professionally, my family, we have owned pieces of real estate, and so I wanted to understand that. I wanted to understand this huge multi-trillion-dollar global industry. I don't even know if you can quantify it globally. It's like this unfathomable number. I wanted to understand at least what affected me. So that's kind of what got me into real estate. It's just that yearn for knowledge. I think really important, especially this day and age, for people to educate themselves on all things personal finance, all things real estate, everything that affects your daily life. And so I just started learning, and it snowballed into an obsession. And it's like, here we are.
I like what you said. Everywhere you go, you're in real estate.
We're in real estate right now.
You don't really think about it, and not many people think about it because they think if I'm renting an apartment, I'm not really in real estate. No, you are in the real estate game. Like it's like when you go to the store.
Yeah.
Like even those big stores like Walmart, they are renting that building from some company who's owning that building.
Absolutely.
So everybody is into the real estate game at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Wouldn't it be cool to know where your rent is going in the transaction? You know what I mean? Like,
someone
probably don't want to know. Yeah, exactly. And so maybe one day if you understand enough, it's your pocket, So who knows?
Yeah.
It's good to understand things, I think so.
So how did you you were into luxury. So how did you get into the land side of?
Yeah, I mean, so land. So like I said, my family, we owned some real estate growing up and everything. And part of that was land. So I'm very fortunate to, have a head start in that area. I'll be the first to admit, I got a head start. It's always easier because there's so many barriers to entry. You can't deny that. But we have, over the years, and then since I got involved in real estate too, kind of built upon that, right? And so we currently own several hundred acres of farmland.
Wow.
And a commercial building as well across the river. On the Illinois side. And as you know, growing that portfolio right now with residential portfolio addition and everything. But once you get started, it's a lot easier to build upon that. So that's what we've done. But growing up, I was always taught they don't make more land, right? It's a commodity that's finite.
Yeah.
And there's not many of those anymore, And so if you can get your hands on even a small parcel, you have scarcity.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's basic, stuff. But a lot of people don't realize that, they don't think about it, right? They think, well, I want to invest in some real estate. That means I'm going to buy a home one day. And that's a great investment. I hope everyone can achieve that, but there is more to it. And I think, having a little foray into it before, what we've grown it into now, it of course got me interested, and it just kind of felt like second nature. But ever since I've become more knowledgeable and played into that, we've built a portfolio of land investments. It's even more enthralling. It's an all-encompassing. And like I said, since they don't make more of it, then it's a little bit harder to get your hands on it sometimes.
I heard.
But there's a lot of ways to do it too.
Okay.
And I think a lot of, when you start talking about, I'm going to invest in some land, you think I'm just going to buy land, right? And that's kind of hard. That's kind of hard sometimes. But there's a lot of ways I kind of steer, first-time investors like that into it. And that kind of cuts down those barriers to entry. And that's kind of where I started my personal journey off of my platform, I was graciously given. And the number one thing I tell people as first-time investors in land things are REITs, which I'm sure you're aware of, real estate investment trusts. I think that is one of the most underrated ways for people to start investing in land. It cuts down the barrier to entry, almost guarantees, as much as any market investment can, that you're going to turn something. And it's just a really good way for people who are kind of interested in land to get their toes in the water. You know what I mean? Like,
can you explain you just brought up something, REITs, which is a real estate investment trust. For those who don't know what REIT is, do you mind explaining that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of jargon we could use, but basically it's like an ETF for real estate, right? An ETF are those exchange funds that diversify your portfolio. And a lot of people who start investing in the stock market love ETFs, and I do too, because like I said, it diversifies. It's a portfolio of a bunch of little stocks that come together and spreads out your risk, right? So then your reward is a lot more stable. REITs do that exact same thing for real estate investment, and they're really easy to do it for land investments, because a lot of these companies and holders and whatnot have small pieces in these bigger funds, which comprises the REIT. And so you can invest in that one tool and immediately have your investment diversified for you. And you don't have to manage it. It's managed.
It's managed
for everything. It's really hands off. I mean, there's companies now that you can invest $100, $50.
I know one on top of my head. I was investing in it like last year, and it's very diverse. Like, you see like all those companies that they manage, and you don't think about it, but like you actually an owner of those investments. Just like you would if you invested like in the S&P 500. You're part owner of Facebook or I don't know Nvidia or Google. So it's the same thing pretty much.
Absolutely. I don't know what the numbers are right now, but historically it's like very good returns, like 10% or something. Like I don't, I would have to look up those numbers exactly, but they're great returns, And I mean, it's proven. And so that's why your original question was, how'd you get into landing? So obviously I was exposed to it, and then I started going down this rabbit hole of how do I get more and more, and that's what I started doing too. And then you can snowball that back then and invest in actual land and everything. And then that's just one way. But if people do want to actually just get their hands on, like, no, I don't want to do like stock market stuff. I don't want to do REITs and stuff. I mean, there's so many different financial tools to get people. If you're looking at parcels of land, there's farm loans, USDA loans, a lot of first-time buyer. I mean, it's the same thing with buying a house. There's so many different tools, and that's when you talk to a lender. And there are lenders that specialize in land investments and things like that, and they could talk in detail more than I can. But there's so many tools, and so I encourage anybody who is even thinking, hey, let's look into this, to look into it, right? Because there's more. I think the times that we're in, we have so much access to all of this information. It's a little bit daunting sometimes, and sometimes makes it seem impossible to sift through and impossible to digest and actually take action on, right?
It's all about research. Like if you find
Yeah.
something and that really interests you,
Yeah.
you're like, I really gotta get into this. Like, me, for example, last year, like when I
Mhm.
found out about wholesaling,
Yeah. Right.
I even told you,
Right. Yeah.
and I was like, man, this is so cool.
Yeah. I remember you told me. Yeah. You were like, you know anything about this? I was like, yeah, I don't do any of that stuff.
But I was so interested, and I really wanted to learn, and
Yeah.
I learned it, and I eventually ended up doing a deal.
Yeah.
So, same thing with land. And
Mhm.
I know that with land, you can also wholesale land as
Sure.
well. You can also flip it as well.
It's a little bit different of a beast than
Yeah.
other stuff, but
Yeah.
it's, largely foundationally the same. You look at similar metrics, there's similar tools to get
Mhm.
into it, things like that. But, there's things people don't think about as well, but like I said, it's also is the same. So for example, like farmland. I mean, the same way you can find a distressed seller for a house, you can find a farmer that needs some assistance and you can get that USDA loan or a farmland loan or something, whatever. And it's a win-win situation, right? And then they can keep farming and you can have, a parcel of land that actually income produces, because that's
Right.
another big thing with land, investment is it's easy to see where, revenue and stuff comes from when you're buying a house and you're going to rent it out. Okay, there's your income. Easy, said and done.
Right.
I'm going to buy it. I'm going to find a renter, making money. Land, it's a little bit different because you have to realize, raw land doesn't make money, and it's never going to. It has to be improved. When you look at land investments, you have to focus on highest and best use of that land. On the surface and the foundation, it is the same, but then once you get deeper into it, then that's when you start doing your feasibility studies. You start running the metrics on what can I actually do? What is this zoned for? What can I actually do with this land? Say you do end up getting your hands on 10 acres of land. What can you do with it? Because if it's zoned residential and you're trying to build a gas station on it, it's not gonna work out, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of different stuff you end up having to look into. But it can be really worth it, right? Because there's a lot of things you can do with land. I mean, if it's raw land, I mean, you can do whatever the hell you want.
Oh, yeah.
What I mean? In the scope of regulation, law, and everything. Yeah. It just so happens that most of the land that we have is crop farming. Okay. Right. And so it was zoned agricultural. And as we've expanded that portfolio ownership of it, we've continued that. Chosen parcels of land that continues that because it's easier, quite frankly, around there and everything. And we started crop farming it.
So most of your land that you guys own are zoned farming?
Agricultural, yeah.
Agriculture.
Farming, yeah, absolutely. And that's what we do with it, and that's where the income production comes in.
Okay. So like, how does it make money? So like, do you guys just raise crops, food?
And that's the thing too. It's largely similar to maybe like having like a property manager for a house, right? Or like a multifamily unit or something. We lease the land to a farmer, and he farms it and takes his cut, of course, and then we get the rest, for being the owner. So you just lease it basically. And again, I think it depends on people's varied level of comfort and ability. I mean, maybe you're a farmer yourself and you just farm it yourself. But usually I would say most investors, do something similar to that, where we lease it out and he farms it.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's really quite cool.
I just learned something.
There's so much you can do, and there's so much to learn. I mean, we're learning all the time. Like I said, I mean, I was grateful enough to kind of get a head start in it all. Yeah. But since I've gotten, in college, my minor was real estate. So really, when I started there, that's when I started getting more involved. And I was like, all right, take this to the next level, right? And there's so much to learn. Always something changing.
So let's say I just graduated from college today. I started working, making, say, $50,000 a year, and I want to start investing in land. What's the first thing do I do? What's the easiest way for me to get started?
Man, honestly, the easiest way to get started, I think, is to grow your knowledge base and grow your network in it. It's so cliche, but it's so powerful, especially in something as big of a change as investing in something huge like that. I don't think there's anything more valuable than a local network of investors who already got the skin in the game, right? And it's not to say you have to waste, hours of a week, going to different events or join a million Facebook groups and all that stuff. That could help, and everything. But just find some kind of good pocket in your community, because that's the thing too. Any kind of investment in real estate is going to be different depending on where you're at, right? If you live in a big city, it's going to be different if you live in, rural America.
Okay.
So if you can get involved in your actual community where you're going to be doing this investing, you can learn from the people who are already doing it there and they know it works. Because I can guarantee you if I go to mid-Missouri versus here in the city, it's all different, right? Everything, all the laws are different.
So it's just different based on the area.
So I think the number one place to start, number one way you're going to start, and even find out where the opportunities are. I mean, like, without being connected with anything, I wouldn't know where investment opportunities are for something like land and stuff like that, you know? So just get involved with some kind of group of investors. And I mean, for you and me, that was easy with, like, you know, we got licensed, we found a brokerage that we like that fit, you know, our goals and everything. And I think you can do that without, you know, getting involved like a brokerage or anything. So if you're just trying to be an investor, I think there's still so many. I mean, I know you're involved in a lot of like networking groups and things like that. And so I'm sure you can testify for that. It's important.
Facebook is a great place to meet people.
It is kind of, right? Like, it is, you know, it sounds silly and it feels like a waste of time. You hear all these like social media gurus being like, join a networking group. You know what? I don't know, man.
Facebook and, you know, there's a ton of investment Facebook group page that you can join and learn a ton of stuff.
Once you start, it just builds on itself, right? You meet one person, they know 10, and now you know some more people, and hopefully you can kind of, you know, get your foot in the door there and find some like-minded investors. And because, I mean, quite frankly, like you said, you're right out of college or something. If you want to get investing, you're not going to have this huge amount of cash. You know, hopefully you do. I hope you do. It might be able to make it a lot easier. If you don't, then you need to find people who do, right? And just kind of build upon that. But I think that's the number one place to start, rather than give advice on, you know, do this exact step. Get involved in your community of investors because they're there. You just got to find them.
Do you need a license to get started investing in land?
No, I like most investments, you don't need, you know, to be licensing yourself. It depends on how involved you want to be, you know. If you are, it probably, you know, helps. If nothing else, because you've gone through a process of learning about, you know, foundational you know, knowledge in real estate and things like that. But you definitely don't have to be, because there's always someone that is, you know.
You know? So someone needs to know before they get started investing in land, because I know sometimes let's say you want to start, you know, flipping. There might be like a couple of things that you need to know, like terms, like what is, let's say, like an ARV, you know, or like what, you know, maybe you need to know how to write contract or where to find contracts. So what are some of the things that someone needs to know before they start investing in land?
Sure. I think I mentioned it earlier, but something that you have to do on most land investments is a feasibility study. Especially if you're going to, you know, plan on improving it in any way or, you know, changing anything about it. You know, if you're just buying, we'll use the farm example. If you're just buying an already established farm, and you know it's already income producing for crops and you're going to keep it as such, then you're good to go. But if you're going to change it up in any way, or if it's like raw land or anything like that, then you're going to need to run things like that. So, you know, I would tell people, look up that if you're going to start it, you know, get involved, know what that is, that entails, because that's what entails, you know, all your zoning stuff and all of your, you know, highest and best use ratios and all the metrics that you're going to sit down and say, is it actually going to produce income one day? So I would start, you know, telling people, look into that, you know, gain knowledge on what that entails, what those kind of studies entail. But I mean, there's so much knowledge out there these days.
Free.
It's free. It really is. We have the world's knowledge at our fingertips. So I don't really think there's a bad place to start. I will say, I think the best place for people to gain knowledge is anything they're actually going to follow through with. And what I mean by that is we consume all of this advice, you know, on read this book or talk to this person or look this specific thing up. But if it's not something that you can actually do and not take action on and follow through with, it's not worth your time. You know, so I would say start where your comfort level is too. Because let's again call back the example of someone coming straight out of college, right? They might be really motivated, and I hope that everyone has the dreams, the gusto to achieve their dreams. But let's be real, right? You know, there are a lot of barriers to entry on a lot of these things. And so you're probably not going to, within 6 months, just own tons of land. So I think the best place to start is chipping away at that knowledge and gaining the knowledge in the things that you will. So if you hear a guru or whatever on social media say, like, read this book, and you don't want to read that book, then I wouldn't, you know, don't start there. Start somewhere else. You know what I mean? It sounds kind of silly, but I think that's kind of where I'm at with, advising on people, like where do I start gaining the knowledge for this stuff? I think it's anything that you can consume for real and take action on.
Is it competitive, the market?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Just as competitive as any other market, just as competitive as, the home buying market and everything. Probably not in the same way, I wouldn't say.
So like, would you like compete with like big time investors, or like just like normal
It depends on what you're
investors?
buying. Right? It depends. Usually the pool is just other like-minded investors. I would say, the same could be argued for, buying homes
Buying
and
homes,
things
yeah,
like that,
yeah,
but
yeah.
also it's a little bit broader of a
Mm-hmm,
market,
mm-hmm,
because you have people who want to be a landlord
mm-hmm,
buying the same house, trying to say as the same person as just wants to live there.
mm-hmm,
You have, you know, different kinds of people and then like situations trying to buy all the same house and everything like
mm-hmm.
that. Typically, I mean, you have a piece of land, you want to buy it. There's not as many people maybe who want to buy it, but typically in my experience, they have a lot more money. Like these institutional investors and things
Okay.
like that. So I don't know. I mean, sometimes you have to go up against that these days, but you're not really playing in that same place. So I would say it is competitive, but no more or no less than any other part of the market.
Okay. So I have a friend
Yeah.
who, I mean, she's a client, and right now she's looking to do some, buy like a duplex and then rent it out. But her goal eventually is to buy land and build a like a nursing home, and so that she can have people live there and then pay the
Sure.
rent. And so, do you see that often? People like, you buy land for a specific reason and then build it, like, say, so like, I guess, like, does she need to find out like what the zoning of the area
Absolutely.
is?
That's
And
the number one place to start. And that's included in all that feasibility stuff like I was talking about.
yeah.
There is a lot of restriction to what can be
Hmm.
done with
Yeah.
land. But I mean, if it's the best use for it, I mean, you can typically make it happen.
And
Right?
she told me that she already found like a place. That to me, I'm like, I'm not really familiar with land investing.
Sure.
Eventually, if we do work on that deal, like, I might have to, like, hey bro, I don't need your help.
It's all the same, really, honestly. I mean, when it gets down to it, it's the same process. It's just
Okay.
you gotta ask different questions.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we're talking about, obviously. There's so many checks and balances and people that work on these deals too.
Yeah.
It's the same. I mean, like you see in like home sales, there's a buyer
Yeah.
and seller, and there's so many people. You got your lender, and everyone's got all this knowledge, right? There's never a bad question when you're involved in these deals and things like that. I mean, maybe there is, but usually not. There probably are some stupid questions, but we won't ask those. But no, I mean, I think once you get involved in these deals, like there is enough knowledge going around with these people that it feels the same,
Okay.
really, as I'm concerned. I don't know. I don't know if that really answers your question or not.
Yeah. I mean, is the financing process the same as buying a house?
Yeah, generally.
Generally.
Like I guess kind of as far as like competition, like your earlier question, like what are you going up against? Like a lot of land investors are cash buyers, institutions and people already have a lot, things like that. But no, I mean, there is a financing process still. Like I said, there's farmland loans, there's USDA loans.
Yeah.
They cover all that stuff. There's investment specific loans.
And you also do like a down payment, and there's
you definitely can. It all depends on the deal.
money deposit too.
It all depends on the deal. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can finance it. I mean,
Okay.
the same as buying a house to rent out. Then if you're going to buy a piece of parcel of farmland, then it's going to income produce with crops. Then the lender will acknowledge that. They'll look at it and see what happens. And I think for most first-time investors in this space, it's largely the same. So there's, like I said, there's really no bad place to start learning about it, but you just have to start. So whatever you can get your hands on, knowledge-wise and community-wise, network-wise, do it. Go for it. And start moving. Start moving. As long it doesn't matter the direction you're moving in, just start moving.
Just get going.
Yeah,
just do it.
Absolutely.
What do you like the most about being an investor?
That's a great question. Ownership of something that is freeing. I think everyone's goal. Everyone talks about it too. Your financial freedom. The only way to do that is by investing. Every once in a while, someone's going to invent a product that makes them millions of dollars, and that sets them free. but that's not for most people. A lot of times, as you make your paycheck and you have your money and you do things. Is that really building, generational wealth and stuff? It's not. Investing is the only way to do that. Investing is the only way to truly grow your wealth. Something that's tangible and can pass down to whoever. There's just so many benefits, to investing. And I think actually what kind of changed my perspective and really got me into it. What I like about investing is that it's not a one size fits all plan. None of this is. A lot of people treat it as such, but when you start to get an understanding of what investing really is, I think you start to see, well, if I've got, like I said, $50,
I can invest.
I can invest. I can be an investor, and that can build on stuff. If I've got $50 million, I can invest, and I can get some, stuff going. I mean, that's the coolest part about investing to me is it can apply to whatever level you're at. And I think, conversations like these and getting with people who have more conversations like these, people, you start to see that, and it gets exciting because you're like, I could get my piece of the pie, right? Especially this day and age, it's so hard to, so earlier the better, but never a bad time to start. The best time to invest is now. Right. The best time was yesterday. It's always going to be now, right? So I just think that's the most exciting part about investing to me. It just makes me feel like I'm getting something back, and you literally do, but I think beyond literal like financial compensation from your investments, it's just this feeling of accomplishment that I exist in this world and there's more to my story than just existing. Walking and waking up every day and going to bed. There's something that it's almost like a legacy, for lack of a better term. And it's cool. It's a cool thing to own something.
I love two things. First, the first thing is you don't become successful by being an employer. You become successful by through ownership.
Absolutely.
So ownership is one of the best pathway to financial freedom, to building wealth. So whether it is a house or building or land or even a business,
Absolutely.
And second thing, I love what you said, that investing is for everyone. And the thing is, it takes a lot of mindset shift for you to realize that oh crap, I can start investing with $10 today.
Yeah.
I can start investing in stocks or REITs or so many types of investment, and you can build on that.
I mean, that's what this podcast is changing. So that's why I'm comfortable saying this here. A lot of times when you're hearing information like this from people, they give you a one size fits all plan, and they say it's all or and they make it sound all or nothing, even though I don't know if that's their intention or not. And then you kind of get discouraged. You have access to all this knowledge like we were talking about, but it's discouraging more than anything. It's not motivating. It's discouraging. You're like, oh, well, I don't have $50 million to it. I do only have the $50 we talked about. Right. Okay, let's do that. Let's start with that. Let's get the ball rolling on the $50, And so I just, it's a weird time to live in with so much knowledge, but that's a catch-22, I think.
Especially with the age that we're in, most of our listeners and us, are like, we're in our 20s, and the best time to do it is like right now, because what an investor who's 40 wish they had was our age. The time,
the compounding time, because put $50 in and then forget about it. And like you said, by the time you're 40, I mean, geez, even if it's only $100, maybe it's only, that's still a nice dinner out.
It's money that you had, it's money that you didn't have to work for it.
Absolutely. So,
what's the least thing you like about investing in land?
It's just so much to it, and I mean, like any deal, there always comes with its drawbacks and things that go wrong, and all these zoning regulation issues, and for the county and the state and everything telling you can and can't do this, and I don't know. It is like any other deal, any other thing in life. There's so many things that can go wrong, and other people got skin in the game, and other people get involved, and it's like, oh, geez, why can't it just be easier? I can't even tell you how many times just like things just fall through. You know what I mean? And like I think that's the ugly side of it.
That's the name of the game.
It is, though. It's just all part of it. I think investing is similar a lot of the times to starting a business. You know, they say like 9 times out of 10 you're gonna
It
fail.
fails, yeah.
I think 9 times out of 10 your investment's probably gonna lose a little bit of money or
Yeah.
break even. You know,
Yeah.
hopefully at least. But then once you get the ball rolling, you know, and on the
Yeah.
one that works out, and
Yeah.
you can snowball it and it builds. There's a lot of money to be lost. I feel like that's probably my least favorite part.
The risk part of it.
Risk. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, and
Yeah.
it's you know it's foundational. It's built into every investment.
Yeah.
Is there's going to be risk. It's just sometimes it's almost off-putting. Sometimes you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm good with what I got, but you know, you got to keep going. You got to look past that.
You gotta get this show rolling.
You're gonna lose money. It is what it is.
What I realize is, before you start risking, before you take any risk, it's really scary. The moment the more you start taking risk, it actually becomes uncomfortable to take risk. For me, like my investing journey, I'm less than 2 years old in investing, and I remember when I started, I was like, I'm just gonna get started with $10.
Yeah.
See how it goes. Yeah. Eventually, I started investing like large amount of money, and you know, I've seen some big returns, and I've also seen some really large loss.
Sucks, right?
And it's like your brain get used to it.
You have to. The ambiguity. You have to get used to the ambiguity, right? Because it's built into every deal. It's built into everything, you know, and you're not going to get anywhere without it, you know. You got to just embrace it.
Yeah.
It's hard to though, man.
I totally agree.
It's hard.
For someone who's new to real estate, what do you suggest is the best place to get started? Is it commercial, residential, and what do you think?
Well, so I actually started my personal professional journey in real estate and commercial.
Okay.
I actually worked for a commercial firm briefly in college.
Okay.
Very quickly decided I hated it. No, it's a strong word.
I remember this story.
You know, it is. But, I just didn't like it. I don't know. Nothing wrong inherently, but I just didn't enjoy it. And so then I graduated, I finished college and everything, and then it was 2 years probably until I got my license actually after college for residential. But because I think I was so dissuaded from commercial. I didn't like it. I was like, oh, if that's what real estate's like, I don't want to ever sell it. But then, it was very attainable to get my residential license, relatively speaking, and it was, as far we're talking about risk and reward, there was a lot of reward to maybe not that much risk. I mean, you take the test and have to pay for all that and spend time. Yeah, it's like, but I was like, why not?
Why not?
You know, and so honestly, just for the lowest barrier to entry, because like we've talked about, there's so much barrier to entry these days for people to get involved in real estate. I think residential is a great place to start. You know, there's such a small barrier to entry. There's so much less to worry about. You know what I mean? It's relatively speaking, like I said, quite easy, you know, to get into it. Still difficult, still a challenge, you know, and it's still a great accomplishment, you know, to get licensed in residential and get that journey going, because it's not easy, but it felt easier to me personally, you know, than the other stuff. I always tell people that, you know, and plus you likely have the largest network in that space, right? You have friends and family. Everyone has to live somewhere. You might not have a large network in commercial or in land investment or something like that. And hopefully, like we talked about earlier, you can get involved in that in community spaces, but you already have a built-in network in residential.
Everywhere.
Just by existing. Because you know people and they all live somewhere. I mean, most of my deals still to this day are friends and family, right? You know, and so I think that's a great place to start. You know, just because you've got a built-in network. You said earlier, what's the best thing to do is start in investing is get involved with people. And start there. You
know? I think when we talk about network, you feel like you need to go out there and meet new people. But like networking is even just grab your phone and people in your contact. Like we all have people in our contacts. Like you start, if cold calling is not your thing.
Networking has become such a buzzword. And it sounds like kind of scary these days. That's what I'm talking about. There's so many things to do, but it's kind of scary now. And I'm just like, nobody wants to network. I gotta go out and meet people. But you know, it's just your network is just the people around you.
Your network is your net worth.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, absolutely. That's why you gotta get involved with people, man. You gotta start talking.
Kind of landing now toward the end. This has been really fun. But how do you stay motivated, man? Like, how do you stay motivated?
I don't. I cry myself to sleep every night. every day is
ice cream every night before you sleep.
Exactly.
Watch TikTok.
Exactly. No, man, I don't know. I think you just gotta, you know, just that sense of accomplishment with stuff. It's once you feel it once, you always try to attain that. Right?
It's like a drug.
It is your first deal, your first, little glimpse of more financial freedom and things like that. Even just sinking a little bit of money in something and watching it hopefully grow a little bit. That feeling, you chase that. Right? But really, I think on a day-to-day basis, how I stay motivated, I tell myself, like we talked about earlier, you have to be okay with the ambiguity. And so I've kind of trained myself to almost like optimistically expect the worst. I expect bad things to happen, but like that's okay. Like honestly, I've kind of trained my brain to be like, if it doesn't happen, yeah, like why is it going so smoothly? You know what I mean? There's something hidden. There's always going to be stuff that goes wrong.
Yeah.
And so if you kind of build that into your expectation, but still like optimistically, obviously, just know that like even if it hits the fan, you know what I mean? Like that's okay, right? And I think that's what keeps motivated is just that reframing. Because especially like, when we're in school and most people's jobs and things like that, success is defined by perfection almost, right?
Yeah. Getting a good grade.
Get rid of that, when you're in this space, get rid of that thinking, reframe that. And then you kind of just, you stay motivated because if you reframe that, be okay with that ambiguity, then you're able to continue chasing that feeling we were talking about, it's just, it kind of feels like a game almost, you know what I mean? Like play it ethically, but it's still a game, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I heard what you said earlier from someone else that I had on the podcast. He said, what did he say? I think say about expecting the worst.
Yeah.
You know, like of course, like you working toward something that you want to work, but every day he's expecting his business to fail, and he's okay with that.
It almost feels like you're keeping it alive, rather than survive. But like that's how I think you breathe life into it. Right, if you're trying to keep something alive, you're like giving it CPR every day. It feels like that, but really all you're doing is pouring that passion into it, right? Because I think sometimes if you kind of go on autopilot and either everything goes perfectly or you're not okay with things going wrong, then it's just very easy to be like, oh, well, this is whatever. I'm not going to think about it. It's not going to. You got to keep it at the forefront of your mind. You know what I mean?
What's your favorite book right now?
Honestly, man, like, I don't read many physical books. Somebody asked me this the other day, and I had to think, and I was like, they didn't ask me in like a professional sense or anything, just like for fun, and I was like, I don't know last time I sat down and read it. Like, there's so many ways to consume media today. But like, I mean, I'm always on my phone, and I'm always reading, these industry
or like articles
and things like that. And I found it really enjoyable to vet my sources. That sounds nerdy of me, but like, you know what I mean? Like I love finding new outlets of this information exposure. I guess I'll say that's like a big word just to say like finding things online. And the part I really enjoy about it is finding a good source, from it, because there's so many sources of knowledge out there. So I don't know if I can really pinpoint like one good thing I'm reading right now. I'm not really, I'm constantly reading things.
Are you on Reddit?
I am sometimes, yeah.
I love Reddit.
I do too. Yeah, absolutely. That's not a book, but it's still fun.
No.
Yeah.
Reddit is like the new Twitter.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I don't even remember like Twitter like back in 2016, 2017. Like Twitter was wild.
It was.
And that's how I feel like Reddit is right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like I don't really use X nowadays. I stopped using Twitter 2022.
Stopped using it when it turned to X.
Yeah. So these days I'm usually just on like Reddit. Whenever I'm looking on something like a new idea or new product, the first place I go is Reddit. If Reddit say it's bad, I'm not buying it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, I think that's a unique. It's funny you asked that question too, and this is my answer because in the age of information that we're in, the way we get it is so different. You ask somebody, what's your favorite book 20 years ago, everybody you ask, even non-readers, have an answer.
Yeah.
Right? And now I think it's increasingly like, I don't have a specific answer. You know what I mean? Like I could probably think for a little bit longer and find one that I enjoy that I've read recently. But like it's I think it's indicative of a larger changing landscape of information and enjoyment and even in entertainment and industry and everything.
So what's one piece of advice that you could give someone who want to get started?
that just get started. I think like we kind of one of the themes of our conversation has been how much information is out there, what's the best place, but don't seek perfectionism. You're going to fail if you're trying to reach for perfect. You're never going to accomplish it. That's okay. You know what I mean? That's great. So just get started, just get moving. Whatever your goal is, just start moving in some direction. There's never a bad direction to start moving in.
I agree. All right, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Thanks for your time.
It's been fun.
Next time.